Welcome everyone to Centre for Health's first live webinar, Taking Care of Your Health When Stuck at Home. So no surprise, we are going through a bit of an unusual time where we are home a little bit more than usual, which is actually a great opportunity for us to, look at what are the things we're doing at home and how can we start to look after our health in a way that, maybe doesn't rely on external things like practitioners. So we've assembled five experts from the health industry who are all going to be covering some different topics, as I said, all related to maintaining your health at home. First presenter I'm going to introduce now will be Dr. Jeremy Balbin, is a chiropractor. Jeremy is going to be talking about working from home and giving you a few little tips about how we can do that in an effective and way that's good for our health. So, Jeremy, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Thank you, Josh. I'll just share my screen. Can everyone see that?
Yep, great.
Yep, awesome, thanks. All right, so good afternoon, everyone. As Josh said, my name is Jeremy Balbin and I'm a chiropractor. I've been working in the field for over 7 years and have dealt with a variety of patients and cases. And I particularly like working with desk workers and weekend warriors. So that led naturally to wanting to talk about one specific topic about us being stuck at home. So today I want to talk to you about working from home. So many of us have had to do this for the last week or so, or last 6 weeks or so, and many people are having to continue to do so. So this brings many new challenges that many people aren't equipped to deal with and leading to some negative health benefits. So there's a lot that we could cover, and my colleagues today will cover a lot of good things today. But what I'll do is go through some important tips about how you can look after yourself while you're working at home. Many people are spending anywhere between 8 and 12 hours working at home right now. So if they can implement some of these strategies, will go a long way to increasing productivity, decreasing discomfort, and decreasing potential future pain and injuries. So what challenges does working from home create? So first, as I said, we're spending anywhere between 8 and 12 hours every day working in unfamiliar and non-ergonomic environments. And most people have their desks and workstations set up pretty well at work, but then all of that sort of falls apart when they're at home. We're now working on dining tables, kitchen benches, couches, and beds while sitting on kitchen chairs and stuff similar to that. So things that aren't designed for us to be sitting at for extended periods. And we're now also working on laptops more when usually we're working on well set up computers, which creates even more issues. I'm sure many of you have, who are doing this have noticed more stiff necks, more headaches, and maybe some other things too. So what can we do to help this? Well, the first thing that we can do is to make sure our setup is as ergonomic as possible. As I said, with working in unfamiliar environments, it leads to more stress in our bodies. And I've been seeing this in my patients where there's been an increase in headaches, stiff and sore necks, mid-backs, and lower backs. So we need to do something to fix this. And I'll go through more specifically soon how to set your workstation up. It's also important to make sure you take regular breaks. So even if you are set up as well as you possibly can be, sitting in the same position or posture for too long is still not good for you. So it's important to take regular breaks, ideally every 30 minutes to an hour, to move your body a bit and rest your eyes and reset your mind. Have you ever felt quite drained or foggy from working for an extended period of time, but then got up to get something from the printer or to get a drink and then felt much more energized when you get back? That's because movement actually energizes your brain. It's the same reason why we feel so sluggish when we're sick and stuck in bed all day. But when we finally get up and go for a walk or move around a bit, we tend to feel better. So do things like getting a drink of water, do some of the exercises or stretches that I'm going to go through soon, go for a little walk, or maybe even go give your pet a little pat on the head. Find some stuff to do just to switch the mind off a bit and move around. As I said, it's important to make sure we're drinking enough water, and which is really easy to do and really easy to forget to do during the day. Poor hydration can lead to a myriad of problems, including headaches, muscle soreness and stiffness, mental fatigue, and more. Many people simply forget to drink water because they're so in the zone during the day. So a useful step that has actually helped me is to have a large bottle of water sitting right in front of you all day. I've got a 2-liter one. Just have it filled up, and it's pretty easy to just see it and then keep drinking. Much easier than having a glass of water and having to remember to keep going to fill that up over and over again. And how much should you drink? Generally, the rule of thumb is somewhere between 2 to 2.5 liters a day, which is somewhere between 8 and 10 cups. And obviously, if you drink lots of coffee or do lots of exercise, you want to increase the amount of water that you drink. And finally, the general theme of this whole thing is to stay active. We all know the benefits of exercise, but it's now more important than ever. Go for your daily walks. Do your 30 to 60 minutes of exercise per day, at least 4 times a week. It's so good for your physical health, but also your mental health. And I'll go through some exercises and stretches that you can do shortly. So how do you set your workstation up? So it depends really if you're using a laptop or a desktop PC, but it's generally the same principle. So I'll go through it quickly now, but I can send you this guide so that you can read it in your own time and set your workstation up when you've got that time. So the first thing you want to do is bring your keyboard as close as possible to the edge of the desk and then tuck your chair in as much as possible. This is to ensure that you don't have to reach forward to reach your keyboard. And it also helps you keep your back up straight and your hips at 90 degrees or slightly more. You want to raise or lower your chair so that your elbows are in line with the keyboard or just above the desk, so that you make sure that your shoulders are relaxed down. And so, as I said, this is important for helping your shoulders relax naturally and not to be raised and stiffened in order to reach the keyboard, as well as putting your elbows and wrists in optimal positions. This includes raising or lowering your armrests if you have them on your chairs to allow for these positions. Once you've configured your chair height, raise or lower your monitor height so that the eye level is somewhere between the middle and top third of the screen. If your monitor is not height adjustable, you can put things underneath it to raise its height, like books or boxes or anything that you can put underneath. Make sure the front of the chair is not digging into the back of your knees, and keep your knees and ankles at around 90 degrees or slightly more open. Keep your feet flat on the floor, and if they don't reach the floor, try and invest in a footrest to keep them flat. Center the keyboard with your nose in the middle of your chest, which should be around the G and the H keys. You want to ensure that your monitor is about an arm's length away so that you're not leaning forward or back to see. And in the case of a laptop, which a lot of us are using right now, it's pretty difficult to sit well and when you're only using a laptop on its own. So your best option is to get a detachable keyboard and mouse and set the laptop up as a screen and then set it all up as above. If you do all that correctly, you should look something like this. So as I said, I can send this to you if you want. It might be a good idea if you want me to send this to you, so chuck your email and mention the workstation ergonomic guide, and I can send it to you after this webinar. All right, so now what exercises can you do throughout the day to help your body and prevent future pain and injuries? There are a lot that you could do, but I picked some of my favorites to start with. The first one is called Brugger's Relief Exercise. It's probably named after someone called Brugger. So you can do this either seated or standing. Start by ensuring your torso is up nice and straight with your arms relaxed by your side. You want to start by taking a deep breath in, and then as you breathe out, you want to follow these 3 instructions. The first thing you want to do is squeeze your shoulder blades together lightly. Don't over squeeze them. You want to rotate your arms out so that your palms are facing out in front of you. And finally, you want to push your sternum or your chest up toward the ceiling and up in front of you. So to go through it again, you want to take a deep breath in. And then as you breathe out, squeeze your shoulder blades together, rotate your arms out and push your chest towards the sky. Do this nice and slowly for a minute or 2, and you should feel more relaxed and energized after. The next stretch is called chin tucks. So stretching your neck in all directions is important, but I'll say this is probably the most important one if you're sitting at a computer all day. All you need to do is, again, while sitting or standing up straight, tuck your chin and head straight back, potentially resulting in a double chin. You can use your fingers to push it straight back, but you don't need to. Make sure your eyes stay level so you're not bending back or forward as you move back. You can either hold in that position for about 10 seconds or do it at slow reps back and forth. So this is probably my favorite exercise for most of my patients. And if you have seen me, I have probably given it to you. This is a way to improve the extension in your thoracic spine or that part of your spine in your mid-back between your shoulder blades. This area tends to be slouched forward when you're working on computers, driving, texting, reading, and so on. So it's important to do something regular to help reverse that a bit. All you need is a 90-centimeter foam roller and some floor space. Slowly lower yourself down onto the roller so that it's along your spine and your head and pelvis are both on it comfortably. Bend your knees so that your feet are flat on the floor and have your hands on the floor out by your sides with your palms facing toward the roof. The aim of this exercise is to lie there for about 10 to 15 minutes. If you start to get quite uncomfortable before the 10-minute mark, that's okay. Just stop and try and increase the length of time you lie on it by 1 minute each day until you can comfortably lie there for about 10 to 15 minutes. You should feel a lot looser, taller, and more relaxed after this. So these two stretches are really important, again, if you are seated all day at a computer, because your pecs and hip flexors tend to get quite stretched, amongst other things, but these ones in particular. So to stretch your pec, just go up to a doorway, place both forearms on the frame so that your entire forearm is on it and out to the side. And then what you want to do is just take a step or two forward, and you should feel a nice stretch in both pecs across your chest. Hold that position for about 30 seconds. To stretch your hip flexor, get onto the ground into a lunge position, as shown in the picture here. I don't know if you guys can see my mouse. And what you want to do is trying to get that back thigh towards the floor. When you're doing that, the natural tendency is to round your lower back. So what you want to try and do is try and keep that as straight as possible. So she's not too bad, but try and keep it as straight as possible when you're coming forward. And you should feel a nice stretch in that hip flexor region. Do both sides and hold for 30 seconds. So the final two exercises that I'll give you are stability and strengthening exercises to strengthen some muscles that are not being used at all when sitting for prolonged periods. The first one is called the YWTL exercise. So essentially, you're going to adopt the following 4 positions that you can see in the screen. The instructions for each is to stand up straight, tuck the chin back slightly so your ears are over your shoulders, and squeeze your shoulder blades together so that those muscles are activated, but you're not over squeezing. And you also want to make sure your hands are positioned so that your thumbs are pointing behind you. So you want to hold each of these positions looking like a Y, a W, a T, and an L for about 10 to 15 seconds, rest for 10 seconds, and then go on to the next position. And you want to repeat that about 2 to 3 times. The final exercise, which I'll go through quickly as I'm running out of time, is called the dead bug or wounded bug exercise. So a lot of you may have seen this in your gym classes or Pilates classes. It's a really good core strengthening exercise. It's probably best not to do this unless you've actually received instruction from your PT or health professional. But to go through it quickly, you want to lay on your back and bend your hips and knees to 90 degrees each, and then point your fingers and your arms straight above you. The first progression of this is to slowly lower one of your arms back down behind you. And while you're doing that, you want to contract your abdominal muscles, make sure your lower spine stays stuck to the floor, and slowly lower one arm behind you while maintaining all of that and continuing to breathe. The next progression is to do the same thing, but this time lower a leg down toward the floor. Really make sure your lower spine doesn't extend and lift off the floor, as it's easy to do that when the leg gets lowered. And then once those two things are really easy to do, you want to try and combine them by doing opposite arm and opposite leg, and then the same arm and same leg. So as I said, one arm back or one and the opposite leg forward, and then bring them back to the middle at the same time. And remember, if you feel pain or are struggling to do this, like you can't keep that lower spine on the floor, just regress to the progression before that and then consult with the health professional PT. Awesome. Thanks, guys. I hope you enjoyed that and found something helpful out of it. Now is a really important time to be looking after our health so that when things return back to normal, we're able to hit the ground running and possibly in an even better state than before. As I said, again, contact me if you want anything or want more info about anything that I've said, but that's all from me. And I will now introduce Josh. So with a background in arts and sports, Josh has always had a keen interest in human movements and behavior. He enjoys working with clients to help improve their quality of life, but particularly enjoys when they start implementing what they've worked on into their everyday life. Josh, take it away. You're still muted. Josh, you're still muted.
Thanks, Jeremy. All right, so thanks for the introduction. I'm not going to be using a PowerPoint, so if people want to click on their top right to view where it says speaker view, you should get a good view of me whilst I'm doing my talk. So as Jeremy mentioned, I'm a remedial massage therapist and Feldenkrais practitioner. As a Feldenkrais practitioner, I mean, not everyone knows what it is, but very basically it's a type of movement therapy where we're basically really interested in discovering what are people's physical habits and movements, and then we want to teach them more efficient and effective ways of moving. And I'm going to be using a few of the Feldenkrais principles in my talk today, which is, as you saw in the heading, about our habits at home. So habits are a really interesting thing that can be really useful. We have, things like good habits, like maybe brushing our teeth, and then we have other habits that maybe aren't so useful, which maybe smoking for some people or sleeping in too much. With all these habits that I'm talking about, a lot of them happen on autopilot. And when we want to be, basically make a change in our habits, the only way we can really do that is to start off by bringing some awareness to it. So I thought I'd start with a nice, quick little activity. So you can just, we can do some writing, just very briefly. We're not going to be sharing it, so it's just for yourself. So if everyone write down the first 5 things that you do every morning. And again, don't think about it too much. Just, you can do it on your computer. You can just do it. If you don't have anywhere to write it down, just think about the first 5 things that you do every morning. And once you've sort of got that down, you can just have a bit of a think about, okay, just even looking at that list, you look at that and go, yep, I like that. Or maybe I don't like one or the other. I mean, you may have things like, I wake up and I hit the snooze. And then I wake up 15 minutes later and I hit the snooze. And the first 5 things you do is hitting the snooze button. Again, when it comes to becoming aware of things, we don't have to assign judgments to it, or good or bad. It's just more of deciding, is that something I want to do? So feel free to, look at that list. If you were to, again, write a list of what are the 5 things that you would like to do in the first thing in the morning, how different is that list going to look? So again, feel free to write that down. And then, of course, when it comes to habits, there's changing it. As I tell people, if you wanted to have bad habits, that's fine. Just make a choice every time you do it. Whether a good habit, bad habit, we don't want to be living too much of our life on autopilot. Obviously, it is somewhat necessary to have some things happening on autopilot, but it is useful to check in every now and then to make sure, are these the things that I actually want to be doing? And then you can apply the same activity to any part of your day. Maybe you want to look at how you finish the day. Maybe you want to have a look at, about how you start your work day, especially if you are working at home. So what do you do in that 5 minutes before you start working? So we're going to now be applying a similar idea to a practical exercise, which follow nicely on from Jeremy's presentation, because it's going to be about your sitting. So again, as I mentioned, sitting, what's the first thing that pops into your head? And what do you notice about your own sitting? Often when I even just say the word sitting and I'm with a bunch of people, everyone starts making, I've got to sit right and all of this. So whatever you do, it's fine, but just sort of notice what you notice about whatever's going on in your sitting. And the first thing that, I would pay attention to is, is the way you're sitting now a choice, or is it something you've just done on autopilot? Again, do you just sort of flop into your chair, or do you have actually put any kind of thought into it? Have you put any thought into what sort of chair you're sitting on? Have you put any thought into which part of the chair you're sitting on, and what have you done with your legs? And some people will already have done this, and other people may have no idea. Either way, we just want to become aware of what it is that we do. So we're going to be, in a moment, doing a few little movement exercises that are going to actually make you more comfortable in your sitting, no matter where you sit. When I'm teaching people about sitting, one of the first things I'll always say is, well, try to, if you can, to have your legs involved in the sitting. And one of the ways we can do that easily is just to come sit towards the edge of the chair. So you notice when you sit on the chair, your legs actually have a purpose. And when I talk about sitting, I'll often get people to, before we make this change, just notice what your legs are doing. Some people have them crossed, tucked under, in front of them. They're probably not really involved in supporting you at all. So even just by coming to the end of the chair and having your feet on the ground, you've now got 3 sort of points in your base of support with your 2 legs in your pelvis, instead of everything being back on your pelvis. Good. And when you're in this position, we're just going to start off with a little bit of a test movement, and then we're going to see if it changes with doing these movements. So I just want you to see what's it like to look up and down. Just notice how far you can do that comfortably. And then you're going to do the same left and right. Just notice how far you can go. You can even maybe pick a spot on the wall or the floor with each of those, just to notice how far that is. And what you're going to do next is you're going to, what I call, hug yourself like this, so that you've more or less got your one elbow over the other. And then with both elbows, you're going to make a nice slow circle. And again, it's trying to make it a circle, not an oval, as much as you can. And even though you can see everyone doing this, I would encourage you to not look at yourself. It's much more important that we, do these exercises based on sensation, not on what we think is the right way that it should look. Good, and then you're going to do the same thing the other way. Nice circle. Good. Then we'll come back to the first way. And this time we want to see, can we improve the quality of this movement? So number one, can we do it without restricting our breathing in any way? Can we do it at a slow, even speed? And even in this movement, some of your habits in movement will, be revealing themselves. Maybe we're not as trained to notice that. A lot of it will be revealed in this seemingly basic movement. I want you to change direction again. And even just getting an idea, was it easier one way or the other? Even noticing which elbow do you have on top. You can try switching that around, see what that feels like. May feel like a completely different movement. The other way as well. Good. Leave that one alone. And then I want you to again try what's it like to look a little bit up, a little bit down, and left and right. And you might notice some differences. You might have some better range of movement. But what's most likely happening is that the rest of your body is now better organized to help you look up and down. Maybe your pelvis started to tilt a bit more. Maybe your back started to make some different positions to make that easier. So we're going to do a couple more exercises. So the next one you're going to do is you're going to have one hand on either knee, and then just coming forward, slide your hands down your legs as far as you can comfortably, and then come back up. Just slowly. I'd encourage you to try breathing out as you go forward and breathing in as you come back. Good. And then we can try that on either leg. So have both hands on either side of one knee and go up and down a few times that way. And then try the same thing on the other knee. Again, there's probably going to be a bit of a difference side to side. It might be easier on one side. You might have more range. It might be easier to breathe at the same time on one side than the other. Good. And then just come back to one hand on either knee and just try that a couple of times. And just notice, is there any change, even in just this movement from having done the two legs individually? Great. Leave that alone. And now let's just come back again to those movements of looking a little bit up, a little bit down, a little bit left, and a little bit right. Just notice, do you have any changes there? But more importantly, what does your sitting feel like now? Do you feel more comfortable in this position? Does your body feel better adjusted to it? So the idea of these movements and exercises, it's not about fitting an ideal way, but it's about your body finding what makes sense for it. Doing the movements, we don't have to be thinking, oh, I want this to help me sit better. We just need to explore it in a way that's comfortable and that isn't overexerting. And then our body and our nervous system and our brain can figure the rest out. So that's the end of my talk. Again, my name is Josh. If you're ever interested to learn a bit more about what these movements can do and how they can help you, I offer Feldenkrais classes and one-on-one sessions. So great, that's the end of my talk. I'm now going to introduce our next speaker. Give me one moment. Cool. So our next speaker is going to be Amali Digby. So Amali is a university-trained nutritionist with a focus on preventative nutrition. She wants to assist you to improve your health and aims to educate, inspire, and empower you to make positive nutrition choices well into the future. So I'm going to pass this over to you, Amali. Again, I'm going to stop the share because I'm not going to be using it.
Excellent. Thanks, Josh. So I think when I say supercharge your snacks, you're probably all thinking of like goji berries and amazing stuff like that will cost you an arm and a leg, but it's really not the case. All of the things that you need to supercharge your snacks are easy and available to buy. So I wanted to show you some really easy snacks today. I'm not sure how I'll go with 10 minutes, but cross our fingers. I've prepped a little bit of stuff. So there's 3 snacks I want to show you, and they're pretty basic. Any things that you can take to work, you can easily whip up at home. So the first one I'm going to show you are my maple nuts. So I like to get a few different nuts and seeds and make them sweet. But if you're not into sweet things, you can also do it with a few herbs and spices. So I like to do cumin and a bit of paprika on my nuts as well, with a bit of olive oil, and pop them in the oven. So it's as easy as grabbing a few nuts. I've got some cashew nuts there. I've got some almonds, and I love nuts because you can get some really good minerals and vitamins from nuts. They're also full of fiber as well. So these, and protein, they can keep you fuller for longer. And I like them because they're really little. So you don't need to eat a lot, but if we eat one nut at a time and make sure we're chewing up our food, it means that we'll eat a lot less in the long run as well. So don't go grabbing handfuls of these. It's tempting. I've got some pecans here. Pecans are amazing. Aldi has them fairly cheap. And I've got some seeds. So some sunflower seeds. You can put pepitas, so pumpkin seeds in as well. And I don't have any measurements. I kind of throw in as much as I need. You can make 1 serving, or you can make a lot more. And then you can put them in a nice airtight jar. So I've just got them in here, and I'm going to put a little bit of pure maple syrup. You want pure maple syrup, not the kind of like tastes like maple syrup stuff, because this itself has a few things like magnesium, calcium, nice minerals in it that's going to support your nutrition and health as well. So you don't need a lot, maybe a teaspoon. I do all my cooking by sight, so I'm just going to put a little bit. You just want to lightly coat them. So that's actually enough. I barely put any in. That was a nice little teaspoon, and you're just going to stir them around with your hand. Pop them onto a baking tray that's been sprayed with oil. And then straight, nice and flat. You don't want them layered on top of each other. And you're going to put that straight into your oven on bake at 180. And they might be ready by the end of our talk. So those are our sweet nuts. I actually made some earlier. I ate most of them. They were delicious. And you only leave them in for 10 or so minutes. They should start to swell up, but you don't want them to change colour. So they'll still be soft, and you leave them on top of your oven for a few minutes, and they'll harden up and get nice and crunchy, and they're really delicious. So you could do that, as I said, if you're not into sweet things, with a few herbs and spices, bit of olive oil, throw that in the oven, and they're delicious. You could do chickpeas, whatever you want. Yummy. So that's the first snack. How easy is that? You could do that at home. You could take those to work, keep them in the drawer. A nice boost. So my next snack is something Maddie and I like to eat, and you get any type of fruit. I've got apple here. I love apples, and these have been cut for a little while. So I don't know if you guys know, but if you get a little bit of lemon and some water and pop it in and chop up your fruit and put it in there, it won't go brown. So I like to do that before I put my parents, I can see are nodding, like to do that before you put it in the school lunches for the kids, because they won't eat brown stuff. At least Maddie won't anyway. She won't eat green stuff either at the moment. She thought she saw some green on something the other day. She's 4.5, for those that don't know me. And she said, "Oh, Mum, there's green stuff. Can't eat it." I was like, "It's the chopping board underneath, Mads. It's not anything that I'm trying to get you to eat." So we're struggling with that. Yeah, you can have some. Here she is now. So I've got some nice chopped up fruit there. And you might be thinking, "Yep, I can chop fruit up at home." What's amazing about that? Oh, she's blowing raspberries now. This is it. Working from home. So I've got some peanuts here. So I like to make my own nut butter. Again, nuts are the perfect way to increase your nutrition. They've got lots of vitamins, minerals, protein, and can really help keep you fuller for longer. What did we talk about? So I've got a Thermomix. You don't need a Thermomix though. You can use any type of high-speed blender. I wanted to use a beautiful one so you could see what was going on, but I couldn't find a blade for it. So you can do this with anything. I'm going to mute myself just for There we go, 21 seconds, and I've got nut butter. So, made some nice, see that, peanut butter in there. So this is a great way at home if you're trying to cut down on salt, sugar, all that kind of stuff. You can make your own perfect butters. Now this is fairly thick. I was hoping to be able to drizzle it over everything, but I don't think I'm going to be able to. So you can pop it in the middle as a dip, so like a hummus, or in a jar, and it stays spreadable by itself, even in the fridge. So perfect. You could add some maple syrup. You could add a bit of olive oil to thin it out a little bit. But that's perfect to have with your nice little fruit snack, although it's not sticking to my fruit. There we go, blooper. There. So that's our second snack. And our third snack, my centerpiece, I think I've probably got about 3 minutes to go, is a hummus. Yeah, 3 minutes, perfect. So what have I got here? I've got my beautiful butternut pumpkin up here, and what I've got here is a cooked one. So I cut it in half, and I put it in the oven with some salt, some pepper, and a drizzle of olive oil, and I cooked it until I could stick a knife into it. So there's no peeling pumpkins going on here. There's no wasted. I don't like to spend too long in the kitchen. I didn't even scoop the seeds out, so I'm going to do that now. And I've scooped them, and then I've got my pumpkin. So I'm just going to get my spoon, and I'm going to get in there, and I'm just going to pull all of the inside out. Or Maddie thinks she's being a comedian. And so, if I wasn't on video, I'd probably spend a little bit more time scooping it out properly. But because I'm on a time limit, I'm going to come back later and get a little bit more of that. So we've got the nice flesh of our pumpkin there. And in front of me here, I've got some chili and some garlic. So I got my chili, I cut it in half. I used a little spoon to scoop those seeds out so I don't have to get my fingers in there. Saying that, I then did wipe my nose, and I got chili all over my nose. So some of you might have seen me blowing my nose for the last half an hour. I have sanitized my hands. And then I got some garlic, 3 little cloves, and I've chopped them up. It doesn't have to be pretty. You just want to dice them. You can pop a little bit of salt on top of that. You can't see because of her head. Take the bowl. Take it. Yay. Go on. And then you can use, you might not have known, but you can use the side of your knife to press down and squish it and get those juices out. The salt helps to get all of the juices going, and you really want to chop it up. If you don't like chili, leave it out. Just go with your garlic. And then we're going to put that into the middle of our chopping board and move our pumpkin over. We're just going to chop that roughly. Oh, I'm an ambassador for Jamie Oliver's school program, and they would be cringing at my chopping just then. We're meant to do it really nicely. And then I've got a can of chickpeas, perfect, which I have already drained. I forgot to put that on a recipe once, so someone messaged me and they were like, yeah, I put the whole can of chickpeas into something. And I was like, you've got to drain that, drain it out. And then you can make aquafaba. If you whip it, it's a great way of doing like meringues and stuff like that without eggs. So chop it as much as you like. So as much or as little as you like. It's not a nice thin one. If you want a really buttery hummus, then you need to put it in your blender. Got some olive oil, pop that over the top. Some pepper. Got a bit of lemon. You don't need fancy squeezes. Use your fingers to catch those pips. That's what we teach the kids for Jamie Oliver. I just had a squirt all over there. See, I've caught the pips there. I'm just going to throw them into the sink. A bit of salt. Some coriander. If you don't like coriander, you're never going to like coriander because it's a genetic thing that makes you think it tastes like soap. I like to use the ends, the little roots. They're the tastiest bits. That's where you get all the flavour. Pop it there. Mash it up. scoop it together. Listen, you can tell this is a Jamie Oliver recipe. Nice and messy, lots of olive oil. I was going to scoop it onto that plate, but that's it. And I love this because it's got pumpkin, which is fibre. It's got your chickpeas, which give you a bit more fibre, legumes, hits your vegetable quota for the day, and it's delicious. And you can have that with a nice corn chip. I like the mission ones, and that is your snack. So those are your 3 snacks. Bella managed to do it. She was skeptical that I would get it done in 10 minutes. So we've got our nice maple nuts, which are almost ready. I'm going to take them out. We've got our apple and nut butter, which has disappeared into the child's room. And we've got our hummus, our pumpkin hummus there. So that is some easy snacks that you guys can make at home. This is going to be my afternoon snack. That's me.
Awesome.
Right, give it to anyone.
Okay. So thanks. That was awesome. Got some really useful and easy, like I say, easy to make snacks. So I have to give that a try. Great. So we're going to move on to our next speaker, which is going to be Valerie Topaz, who's a manual therapist. So Valerie has been a manual therapist since 2012. She uses various techniques such as anatomy trains, lymphatic drainage, myofascial release, and rehabilitation. Her focus and passion are sharing information and educating the community about well-being concepts, including natural foot health, lymphatic circulation, and non-invasive rehab treatments. Her aim in this talk is to tell you about the importance of your lymphatic system. So I'll hand it over to you, Valerie.
Thank you, Josh, and hi, everyone. I'm waiting for my screen. Can I share it?
Yep, go for it.
Okay. Sorry, it's a bit more messy here. Okay. Okay, so while we're waiting for the PowerPoint to come up, here it is. I chose to talk to you about the lymphatic system today because it is one of our most important ones, especially right now because it's connected to the immune system. It's actually one of the most important things about it. And a lot of people don't know enough about it. So I want to tell you a few basic things. But before that, let's start with a few examples. Maybe you or somebody you know have experienced one of these things. Here are a few specific examples. Maybe you had those lumps after getting a piercing or a new earring. Some of you may have experienced this sharp pain underneath your jaw after smoking or maybe taking medicine for a long time. Or another example is a ball, like a little lump in the armpit. Sometimes you even need to get surgery for that. Here are a few other examples, more general ones. You can suffer from flu-like symptoms or cold for too long. Usually it takes 3-4 days, but in those cases it can just last for months and months, or to keep reoccurring. Other examples are being tired a lot, fatigue, or maybe a mild depression. It can be general pain or specific pain in one of the limbs or both of them. Also caused by fluid retention. All of these are symptoms of poor lymphatic circulation. Some of them are they have a direct connection to it because the lymphatic system is the origin, and some of them are secondary effects, secondary symptoms, but all of them are connected or affecting the lymphatic system. So the background is, I don't want to talk about everything because there's a lot of information, but generally, just so you know, the system is almost everywhere in our body. It contains vessels, different types of vessels. It has nodes. Those are the swollen ones that we've mentioned in the examples before, and a few organs. This system relies mostly on our movement. It can be voluntary movement, muscle contraction, or it can be involuntary movement inside of our body, like breathing, like the movement of our diaphragm and other organs inside, and also internal pressure. That refers to fluids in our body. It's an interesting fact that the lymphatic system does not have a pump. It does resemble the cardiovascular one, but it doesn't have a pump. So it has to rely on something else. Here you can find some information about the functions of our lymphatic system, but I would like to talk more about the most important thing for us in this talk, and that's the immune system. So the lymphatic system is our first line of defense against all intruders. So it can be bacteria, it can be viruses, it can be because we're sick or because we cut ourselves. The immune system is the one that creates white blood cells. The lymphatic system transports them to where they need to go. And that's how our body is also memorizing those parts and creating immunity for the future. So it creates cells, it moves them, it also detoxes our body. The fat, I'm not going to talk a lot about it because it's not the fat that usually people think about, it's internal, and also balance of fluids in our body. Here are a few things that slow down the lymphatic system. And it's important to say that the problem with a slow lymphatic system with the flow of the fluid is that all the things, all the benefits that we've just mentioned, we're getting less of them if the system is slow. And it's already slow because this fluid is really sticky. So it's not moving fast enough by itself. So the more we sit, I've mentioned lack of movement here, the more we sit, the slower it becomes. So we need to help it in some way. So the things that slow it down is lack of movement or sitting too much, lack of liquids. And by liquids, I mean basically only water, because everything else is already activating our digestive system. So it's water. And overload of toxins and fat, it can be medicine. It can be fatty foods. It can be different things that are just making it hard for our system. So here's the interesting part, the thing that we can do by ourselves. Walking and running is something that Jeremy talked about in his talk. And we also published this thing a few weeks ago, I think, about the ratio between sitting and moving. So usually we're trying to maintain a ratio of either it's 20-20, 10-10, or as Jeremy said, it can be half an hour or an hour, but we're always trying to move the same amount of time that we set. The other one is jumping. The best thing to do is to jump on a trampoline. The fact that we're lifting higher up in the air is helping the lymphatic fluid to move. But if you don't have a trampoline, just jump on the ground, jump on a mat. It's already better than not doing anything at all. Now, shaking is something I want to demonstrate, and I would like all of you to join me. So we'll be doing really light body shakes. We're not jumping up in the air. We're standing on the ground with our feet. We can only lift up our heels a bit when we're doing that. And we're trying to shake everything we can, which includes our arms, our torso, maybe moving, rotating our hips a bit. You can't see everything, but I'm pretty sure you can understand. So it's just light shaking. And you can feel the circulation in the body improving straight away. Try to tap the ground with your heels, even without moving the body too much. Just the tapping of the heels on the ground, it's already one of the best things that you can do for your lymphatics. Also, it has the same benefits of walking and running when it's not competitive, it's not for sports, it's just light running, light walking. This tapping thing is also something that you're doing there. It's also helping a lot. Dry brushing. For dry brushing, you need to get a brush from natural hair. You can get it at the chemist. You can get it on iHerb. Usually they're using brushes with natural horsetail hair. And while you're brushing, you're always thinking, you're always mindful of the direction. So the direction will be your heart. There are different maps of lymphatic system, but the easiest way to remember is always aim towards your heart. So you're taking your brush. I don't have one right now, but let's say that this is a brush. Let's start with one arm. We're just applying mild pressure on the skin because 70% of our lymphatic system vessels are right underneath the skin. So we will be doing really slow movements in the direction of our heart. Try to do that maybe 3 to even 7 repetitions, each arm, each leg, neck down, belly up. And you can talk to your specific practitioner, to your personal one, about how many repetitions you need or whether you should not do that, because there are some restrictions sometimes in rare cases, but it's generally it's a good thing for everybody. Another thing is dry scrubbing. For that, you need a towel. So maybe you heard of it before, but it became quite famous now in isolation. A lot of people started to do that, especially trainers. So we will be using a towel, and it's exactly like it sounds. We're just scrubbing our skin. Again, only mild pressure because we want to stimulate the lymphatic system and the nerves on the skin. We don't want to massage our muscles. So it's not supposed to be stronger than that. Here's my timer. Okay, I need one more second. I'll just mention a few other things. Shower, scrubs, hot, cold showers, just change the temperature. All the things that we're doing here are eventually will be done while we sleep. So we're increasing the lymphatic flow in order to get the detox while we sleep. And here are just a few healthy habits, a few tips. You can get all of it by email, or you can just request it and you'll have all of this information. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Back to you, Josh.
Great. Thanks, Valerie. Great to get that really useful information. I think the lymphatic system is probably one of the more unknown systems. So really good to get that information a little bit about what it is and then ways that we can help its functioning. So moving on to our final speaker, which will be Emmanuel Banach, who's a remedial massage therapist. He specializes in deep tissue therapy and has a passion for gaming, as I think you're about to find out. He's going to be giving us some tips on staying active with his talk, Active Art Motivation in Isolation. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to you, Emmanuel.
This thing on?
Yep.
Yeah, sweet. Hey guys, how's it going? My name's Emmanuel. I'm here to discuss a few things. Firstly, I'm a remedial massage therapist at the Center for Health with this awesome crew. I wanted to cover how to sort of get the motivation to stay active in these times, especially since we've all been stuck in our houses. It's getting harder to find the motivation to get out there and to stay active, especially if we got kids in our lives or something. We want to keep them active as well because they're just going to be hyperactive all the time. We need to burn off energy for them and ourselves. So let's see, where should I even start? I'll start with I've been studying my therapy and I've been trying to bring in those principles into my remedial massage. A lot of that is about exercise. So that's what I want to specifically cover using gaming as a way to give us the motivation to actually get out there and get fit. So I'll start off with some low budget, I'll move into some medium budget, and I'll finish off with some high budget gaming type stuff. So as a beginning, with the low budget, I found some awesome community-based, completely free-to-play type games. It's a sort of like orientation, finding things, treasure hunt type stuff. So when I was out for a walk the other day, I found a toy bear tied up to a gate. And then as I kept walking, I found another one inside of a window. And after Googling it, I found out that this is a treasure hunt for kids so that they can sort of be distracted from, this kind of depressing time for a lot of people. And I really loved it because when you're walking out there and you're seeing a whole bunch of people, obviously socially distant, but still so many people out there walking with themselves or with their kids, looking for these bears and writing it down. And after doing a bit of research, it turns out people go around, they write down the locations so that they don't double back next time they go out for the adventure, and they try to locate as many of these hidden bears as possible. It's actually really awesome. Really recommend Googling it, get some info, get out there and do it. It's pretty much everywhere, really. So that's one of the community-based games that I found. Another one that I just got put onto was Rainbow Melbourne. This is also awesome. There's a Facebook group for it. Just look up Rainbow Melbourne. It's another one of those community-based ones where kids are out there drawing pictures on the ground, usually like really colorful rainbows and stuff. I saw some adults doing it too, so we can jump in on the fun. And it's just another one of those treasure hunting type ones where you go around looking for these different pictures, mark it down, and keep your adventure going. Another one really good for kids, but yeah, like I said, we can jump in on it. So what else we got? So next up, I'll move into medium budget type gaming. So this is smartphone type stuff. If you've got a smartphone, then definitely got some games for you here. I'll start off with Pokemon Go. Pokemon Go, I don't know if you've heard of Pokemon, but it's pretty much like you get these little battle monsters, as they used to call them. Now they're just Pokemon. They're these cute little creatures where you catch them into a ball and they sort of become your pets. When Pokemon Go first was released on the mobile, it was pretty lame, to sort of say it simply. Nobody really wanted to play it. They didn't put enough effort into it, but after jumping back onto it, they've really fleshed it out. It's got a lot more in-depth progression system, so you can log all the Pokemon you catch. Recently, they've done a special event to help with the isolation times, so that it's not on all the time, but on specific days, they make it much easier to discover Pokemon within your own home. They've got this awesome function that makes it augmented reality, as they call it. So you can use your mobile phone's camera to actually see these Pokemon in your real world, and then you go and catch them like that. So, you could have a Charmander sitting on your coffee table while you're at work. It's like, I'm gonna take a quick break, catch this Pokemon, maybe go for a walk to the kitchen, catch another one. I've been loving it, to say the least. It's good for all ages, kids, adults with kids, everybody jump on it, seriously. But make sure that when you're on it, you keep awareness of your surroundings. It's one thing to walk into a wall, but it's another thing when you're out there in public, just walking into people's fences and stuff. So make sure you're watching where you're going while you're playing around with Pokemon Go. What else we got? We got Zombies Run. This is something special, I like to think. My friend put me onto this when I told them I was trying to find topics for this talk right here. Zombies Run, great thing, probably more suited for adult players. So you jump onto Zombies Run and they start you off with an audio log of an adventure. So you'd be like, all right, I want to make my run based on time, or you can make it based on distance. Once you've started your mission, it'll play you through a story. It'll be like, oh, zombies are attacking, everybody run. Or something, I don't know. That was a simple way to put it, but they got a really cool story going for them. And you can put different settings on. So if you want a more intensive workout for it, you can put zombie chase mode on. Every little while you get an alarm. It'll be like, zombies are coming, run, and you got to start running. And if you don't outrun the zombies, they catch you and rob you of your supplies, which is another cool thing in the game to help you progress through your story. While you're walking, you find supplies, medicine, sticks, clothes, things to build your base up when you do return home. and log your progress. So yeah, that's highly recommended. Jump on that as well. I think that was probably one of my personal favorites on the smartphone spectrum of the games. Yeah, definitely have a look at it. The flexible routines is probably where it shines. You know, you can tailor it to what you want it to be. And there's one more thing about Spotify. You can link your Spotify, do that too. Let's see, next game we got geocaching. I think that's how you say the word caching. I'm not sure, but geocaching, look that up. Awesome stuff once again. It's not as much of a game as it is just pure treasure hunting. Obviously, like these days, wear some gloves and stuff while you're out there, but it's good for all ages. If you're getting your kids on it, make sure you're with them supervising, but it's just pure treasure hunts. You can download an app on your phone. You can find it in a web browser, Google it, geocaching. It'll give you directions or hints on how to find some treasure. You go out looking for it, and then once you find it, it's possible you found a multi-part treasure, and it'll be like, nice, good work on finding my treasure. Your hunt has only just begun. Your next place will be the park around the corner. I find that this one in particular has been just special in helping me find these awesome, unique spots, even in my own neighborhood that I had never known about. There's a park that I pass almost daily on my walk, and on the other side of it, there's just this beautiful view that's silent, you know, birds are chirping and stuff, just the kind of thing I haven't found before, and it's 2 minutes down the road from me. So geocaching, check that out. The basic app is just called geocaching. So there is a paid option to give you more access to more treasure hunts. Totally not necessary. Just get started. If you really like it, go for it and pay for it. So yeah, geocaching. Next up, I'm going to move into the higher budget end of the spectrum. This is some unique stuff. This is virtual reality is what I'm going to cover here. So virtual reality has come a long way since it started. It used to be just chuck on some gigantic goggles, watch a bunch of polygons and squares do some weird things in front of you, and that was your VR experience. These days, it has traveled a long way. You can get basic setups that just use your smartphone, all the way to setups that are like $1,500 for a basic kit that sits on your face with controllers. Some of them come installed with cameras on the actual mask so that they can track you the whole time, as in your movement in space. And the games here, amazing stuff for fitness, I'll tell you that. The one that I found most recently, my personal favorite for fitness, is Box VR. It's so basic but beautiful. You choose your setup for where you want to work out in this virtual reality. You can be at the gym, or you can be in this strange place floating through the universe. And then you'll have these floating colorful orbs come at you to the beat of music. All the music in the app or in the game has been designed for the routines. The routines were designed by professional coaches that specialize in this industry. And from here, you've got your controllers, and you can jab, hook, uppercut, block, dodge your way through awesome tracks. The workouts go anywhere from 2 minutes all the way to a whole hour. And I'll tell you right now, if you go the hour, good luck not sweating. You will be sweating every time. The first time you're on this, you will be hurting for the next few days. After maybe 2 weeks of this, you'll just be loving it. I'm hooked on it. I try to do it every day now. It's great stuff. So yeah, that's Box VR. Have a look at it if you're planning on getting a VR set. Next up in the VR corner on the virtual reality, we got Beat Saber. Very similar game, but closer towards the gaming aspect rather than fitness. It will still get you sweating, but it's much more of a game. You hold 2 lightsabers, boxes come flying at you with different arrows and directions, and you're slicing these bad boys up. You will be sweating once again, but the songs are completely different. They're much more popular music that you can hear on the radio and stuff. My personal favorite was an album I downloaded and paid for by Green Day, and really wild colors, super active time. It's just Beat Saber. Look it up. Crazy stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much close to the end of my talk. Don't know if you noticed, but I got a lot of passion for games. If you want to hit me up or look me up or whatever, send me a message to find out some more indication on some different games you can work on, maybe low budget, no budget to high budget. I could definitely help you out there. I'm here with the Center for Health people. Thanks for listening, guys. It's been a pleasure presenting.
Great. All right. Thanks, Emmanuel. Some great stuff there. I think, yeah, right, absolutely incredible, you know, the progress that gaming has made into the mainstream. And with VR, I think they're only really, you know, just starting to scratch the surface of its potential. So looking forward to, yeah, what'll come of that. So yeah, that's the end of our little webinar today. So thank you all so much for attending. I've got some contact details up on the screen there if you want to get in touch with any of the practitioners you've heard of from today, or if you have any questions. We might actually open up, if anyone has any questions at the moment, if you'd like to put it into the chat box, and we can, if you've got specific to a practitioner, I can ask them, and I might just choose a few of the questions that come through. But yeah, otherwise, I was actually just wanted to ask, Amali, you haven't sort of stopped going there. What are you cooking up there?
Oh, I've just boxed everything. So my nuts are in the jar.
Yep.
I've put my peanut butter in a jar, and then I've portioned everything out into these little containers. So I've got my hummus and my crackers. And something I should note, I'd also done some sesame seeds and just done them on the pan, and I forgot. It's a really nice crunch over the top of the hummus at the end. But when you look at these big, like divided containers, a lot of people think that the little bit is where you put the dip and stuff, and then you put like the big area full of the crackers. It's the other way around. Your vegetables go in the biggest part of the container, and your like protein kind of, or like cracker portion goes in the small part. I always notice that when people put their meals in, they'll put like, use the big part for like the pasta or the meat and stuff, and it really, that's the small part. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool.